Trump was likely watching Fox News last night as the results came in for the Democratic sweep, the blue wave that took place last night. Not just victories in blue states, but major shifts within those if you dive into more specificity in counties that were more red, shifting in a blue direction, and signs that the Democratic Party is not dead, and that manifesting in very different types of candidates, as we've been talking about throughout this show. Well, I don't think Trump would have liked some of what he saw on Fox News last night. So let's take a look where they had to just take a moment to be honest and accurately diagnose why things went the way they did last night.
A big loss. You can say that these states were traditionally blue, but you can also say that heading in, there was some thought that, especially in New Jersey, that Ciattarelli would do better. The spreads here are surprising. Maybe not the results, but the spreads. And if you look inside the numbers, there are some dangerous things. One, young women overwhelmingly in New Jersey and Virginia supported the Democrat based on economy, on immigration, maybe those ICE images, the affordability push by Mamdani really sticks. And that's basically inflation and how people feel about the economy. So this dichotomy between how Wall Street's doing and how big business is doing and how you feel about it at home is something Republicans really have to look at closely. But look at this spread in Virginia. It's massive.
Do you think that the young people, especially in the Mamdani race, which is fascinating to me, do you think that they liked his solutions that he was putting forward, or he was the only one who...
Or did they just see that video of him in an apron in his rap song where his nipples were out? Was it really about affordability, or was it just more of a nipple thing? That's my question. Brett, what do you think, Brett?
Was actually talking about it.
They turned out in droves. Young people
they did.
I mean, in big numbers. 18 to 39 came out for Mamdani big. I think Cuomo started to close at the end because he was saying, here's the fearful things, here are the things you have to be worried about. But he was such a bad candidate at the beginning.
Sure. By the way, Sliwa, our JoJo Sliwa, I want to defend him for a second, not on almost anything, except a lot of people were a lot of Cuomo fans. I saw a video of Cuomo fan being like, F you, JoJo, or Curtis Sliwa, F you. And you're the reason that Zohran won. You split the anti-Zohran vote. Podcast listeners, you're not seeing something a little bit fun. Okay. Maybe it was about affordability. Or maybe you want to afford some of that. No, stop it. That's unacceptable. Jaden, that's unacceptable. This is about serious things. And I'm disappointed in you. And they were screaming that by Sliwa staying in, he split the non-Zohran vote, which he did. But you might notice, after all of that heat that was directed at our poor, pet-loving Sliwa, Cuomo's wearing, what did he say? Killing grannies and slapping. Is that word? Are you allowed to say that word? I don't know. Who knows these days? Zohran got 50+% of the vote. So Sliwa could have dropped out and still Zohran would have won. Just in case you were one of those people, it's important to note, even if Sliwa wasn't in there, Cuomo would have still lost. So all of the hubbub that was made of that came to not really be relevant. And all the focus there wasn't much focus, but the focus that was paid to Sliwa, I don't even think was necessary. But there it is. I mean, Brett Baer saying, this is largely about Trump. This is what Trump's doing. People are fed up with Trump. That's how our politics is now. It's very nationalized. And there's local issues that matter a ton as well. But there's also a lot of backlash to him. And he's not addressing people's economic issues, which is why he got elected, despite all of his other terrible characteristics. And then here's more.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And, this idea of affordability, which just basically means inflation, that prices are too high. and that's a real sensitivity spot for people, is, I think, something that Republicans do have to look carefully at. It's obvious that they're very aware of it. I saw James Blair today on with Larry Kudlow talking about how he believes that what they're seeing in the future indicator economic numbers are very positive. Scott Bessent has implied the same thing. So obviously, before you get to the midterms...
I love that. So people aren't feeling good about the state of the economy, but that's weird. I mean, I'm confused because Larry Kudlow and Scott Bessent really think the economy is doing well. I saw that clip of Larry Kudlow. He was like, what? What does he do? Why are the voters... Imagine Bessent and Larry Kudlow talking. That's the sleepiest conversation you've ever had. Why don't GDP growth was good? Why don't they like it? It's the tariffs. It's the underlying issues. And then Trump's throwing more fuel on a problematic economic fire with the tariffs. And meanwhile, he's only making it worse by saying, I'm willingly taking away people's SNAP benefits, and y'all have been having a little bit too much food assistance anyways.
I think so. Millions of Americans are going
Please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate the show.
to be without SNAP benefits. And I will say about SNAP benefits, so when I was president, we had $7 billion worth, and now they have many times that, because these benefits were given to anybody that asked, and they're up to, I hear, just many times, $47 billion. So it wasn't the purpose of SNAP. It was for people that really had problems, down and out, people that really had problems. But during Biden, they gave it to anybody that wanted it. I think it's something you have to talk about because the numbers are incredible. But countless public servants are now...
So as he's cutting off food assistance, despite that not being necessary because of the contingency fund, he's leaning into the argument of, and that's not a big deal because too many people got food assistance. Anywho, now, did he try to claim during his presidency they would only annually spend $7 billion on food assistance? That's the most absurd figure ever. And we looked at the numbers before where spending skyrocketed at the end of his presidency because the pandemic hit. So then it was inflated during Biden's presidency because there was still all of this pandemic economic strain. And then it was dropping under Biden as people got out of those situations, the economic situations that made them reliant on it. And regardless, whoever wants it, yeah, if people are able to qualify under the SNAP qualifications for food assistance, give it to them, please. It's mind-bending that we'd be giving huge tax breaks to the wealthiest, that you would have Zuckerberg with his 12 houses or something like that. Bezos, hell yeah. You remember that clip? Elon in that clip. These are all bonus show references. You got to get the bonus show. Click the join button. You know all the references. With all of that money, and great. Yay. I'm very proud of them. And a lot of good has been done through people who end up making money. And then some of them go on to destroy critical programs within the government and ruin people's lives. But why in that country that's the richest in the history of countries, we would be pinching our pennies with food? Makes no sense to me. Zip. Then this.
All right, Bill, thank you.
Let's bring in Britt Hume with his thoughts as we sort of digest where we are tonight. Britt, what's the big takeaway for you when you look at these three races?
Well, I don't think you ever need to look very far in our current politics without wondering what the effect of Donald Trump was and is. I was struck by what was coming out of Mikey Sherrill's campaign tonight, that he was a big factor in the race as far as she was concerned, and resistance to him was that. There was a number that was cited earlier from our polling data that showed that something like 70% of the voters on her side that were acting to resist Donald Trump.
Yeah, bad stuff if you're Trump watching Fox News, for sure. And then I saw that some Fox hosts were saying we need to root for New York to fail now.
To vote against it.
But a lot of Jews voted for him.
33%.
And a lot of Jews voted for him.
And that breaks my heart.
New Yorkers aren't dumb. They got to elect who they wanted to lead them. And if he fails, they will elect someone else.
He will fail. Socialism failed in the Soviet Union. It'll fail in New York City.
We should all be rooting for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should all be rooting for the city to succeed.
Socialism's not going to succeed in New York if you want it to look the way it is right.
You heard? I'm rooting for that. That's not what you should be saying. That seems a little bit un-American. I hope an American city fails. Now, the argument is, first of all, again, I actually have deep ideological opposition, profound, to actual socialism. Now, most people use that word to mean I'm a lefty. Let's be honest. That's why I don't get that up in arms, but they're just using it as like a label. I promise Zohran Mamdani's not going to, what does he say? Turn it into the Soviet Union. Okay. Did you see the apron video? Really? We think it's going to be Soviet Union. Okay. Well, I think that's dramatic. He uses that as a label to identify himself as not the same. I don't know why. That's not my preference. I wish he wouldn't. The proposals aren't radical enough to say communism or whatever. But it's what he chose, similar to Bernie. Even when Bernie was running on things that would have been just expansions to the social safety net in a way that's not socialist. I mean, everything, in a sense, has a socialist characteristic every time the government does anything by their logic. But the image they're trying to conjure is not at all even in the conversation with how Zohran's going to govern. And maybe he will be successful, maybe he won't. Obviously, we should all be rooting for every city to be successful. Don't know why my voice went up that high. That was a little disturbing.